Yeah, Cavs, Grizzlies, and Pacers are all blacked out here. So if it's on NBA TV, anything like that. Now, occasionally I can get them on local channels, but they're not always on local channels. The Cavs always are, but I want to watch Jaw, and it's like I can't even go to a bar to watch them.
I gotcha. That is one thing about Texas is so spread out. I live in Dallas, but the Rockets aren't blacked out, so that's nice.
It's awesome.
Looks like we're up.
All right, cool. Hey, welcome everyone in to another episode of the Midweek Midrange, episode 7. Happy you all could join us either live or later on. This week we are here with Parker and Jamaal from Belly Up Sports Network, 2 NBA writers. How y'all doing tonight?
Yeah. Doing all right, man. Doing all right. We're 1-0 on the week. I'm doing great.
Yeah, it just took a nice little 0-20 run to get there.
Completely.
First things first, as we start this episode off, it is an NBA podcast. Like to send thoughts and prayers out to the Lakers family and Elgin Baylor's family as we lost a legend. This week, Elgin Baylor, an 11-time All-Star, a Hall of Famer, and a 10-time All-NBA, passed away from natural causes. This happens. It's just sad. It seems like one after the other, but it'd be remiss if we didn't say something about him. So if y'all have anything y'all want to say about it, feel free. But just wanted to mention that.
It's just sad. He's I guess he's 86 and that is like getting up there. But I was hearing a report. Obviously, none of us would have been old enough to watch him play live. Crediting him though with this idea, like the perimeter guy that scores a bunch of different ways in the lane. Kind of starts with him. I mean, tremendous stats if you go back and look at the kind of stuff he was putting up in a very different time.
Yeah.
No. Definitely one of the more unsung heroes, I think, of the NBA that people fail to realize. I think is Elgin Baylor. He will be missed.
Yeah, no doubt. The more you listen about him and everything, it sounds like he really invented the game a certain way or started it up. So, just sad. But in lighter news, again, welcome to another episode of the Midweek Midrange. And this one is I'm messing with my earpiece. Sorry. This one is so important, and so we're all so excited about this one. It is the first ever Midweek Midrange trade deadline episode. The trade deadline is tomorrow. There are 2 things that get me super just over the top excited in life, and that is drafts and trades. And I know that everyone is human, and I know that I shouldn't get so excited about it, but I am not them. I am not a millionaire. I love this so much, and I am so excited to be with y'all right now. So. Are y'all not amped about? I'm amped about this. I love trades.
Well, I feel like you say amped. Like, I feel like the whole Houston Rockets roster could get just flipped in the next 24 hours. Like, I have no idea what's about to happen. I kind of wish it had happened already by now.
It might as well be a fire sale up there in Houston right now.
Yeah, we're currently speaking on fire. We're currently losing to the Hornets without LaMelo. Like, what are we doing?
Oh God. Bet you wouldn't think you were going to be saying that this time last year.
This time last year, we still had Clint Capella. We had just traded him.
Oh my God. Well, yeah. So before we do dive into all that, hit on trades, possible trades, teams, players. There's a little bit we do have to hit on first. First of all, this episode of Midweek Midrange is brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Yeti. Yeti is based out of Texas. We like to hook them. Okay. So I don't have my Yeti. I had to be an adult today, and I had to do dishes. So, but Parker's got his going over there. Still got that. You got that hot and cold one.
Hot and a cold. A hot and a cold.
How about that? But yeah. So go check out Yeti. Go to our Belly Up Sports at Belly Up Sports on Twitter. Sorry, words. I'm so excited about this episode. I can't even get that out. Yeah, no. Go check out Midweek Midrange. Check out our bio, and you will see that Yeti Yeti sponsor in there. Click on that. Go in there. Give it a click. Buy some stuff. Buy some cool stuff. Buy some stuff. You know, I'll hit you with my Venmo. It's all good. I'll send you a little bit. You can send me something. We'll do that. I don't care to put the Addy out on the internet. But yeah, no. Little light hot tea, cold tea to start all this off. So we doesn't really matter which one we start with. We know the two names out there. Let's just go ahead and not even tease it. LeBron James and LaMelo Ball were both injured over the weekend. Just okay, that happened. So let's start off with LaMelo because we kind of mentioned him already. Right now, they are curb stomping the Rockets. Sorry to use such strong way to put it, but you know the thing about the Hornets that was interesting. You know they had the third pick in the draft. They go out and get LaMelo, but nobody saw them really. The East might be weak, but you don't end up with the third pick in the draft and then kind of find your way into that 5-6 seed. And LaMelo was kind of really the reason for that. I mean, obviously, Scary Terry, go Cards, was out there, putting up clutch points, but at the same time, LaMelo was kind of anchoring that for him. So, hot tea, cold tea, is this going to keep the Hornets out of the playoffs? Jamaal, we'll start with you.
I think it's hot tea, but I think it's really interesting because as everybody else was speaking, I don't think that anybody really foresaw Charlotte playing as well as they have with LaMelo playing as well as he has. Because I'll be very honest, I did not really see LaMelo being the factor that for basically the Rookie of the Year conversation or just the lead dog or whatever. So him going down with that wrist injury is going to be a huge blow because as of right now, Charlotte is in the 5th seed in the Eastern Conference ahead of Miami of all people. So I think that it will play a factor. I don't know how much longer Charlotte can hold on because Miami, even though they didn't play well the last couple of games against Indiana, they are surging. And I think that their veteran experience is going to win out over Charlotte's youth, as far as I'm concerned. So it's going to be incumbent on the rest of the Hornets. So like Terry Rozier, PJ Washington, and all those guys, they all need to step their game up if they want to, at the very least, make the playoffs. Because honestly, even if they all get there, I really don't foresee them making a scare in the first round or even moving on without LaMelo Ball. That's how much of a factor he's been this year.
Parker?
Yeah, I think that they're obviously as a team exceeding what I would assume expectations were. I might have thought like there's a shot that LaMelo Ball could get Rookie of the Year, obviously, but I didn't know he'd be running away with it before he got hurt like he was. Currently, they sit. What do I have? Where is this? Coming into tonight, they were 5th in the East, and they're right neck and neck, a half game behind Atlanta. And again, like you said, they're currently beating my Rockets, so they very well could be 4th in the East tomorrow. I don't know that anyone had them up there. I kind of wonder if like LaMelo losing this sucks. We can talk about Rookie of the Year in a second. I wonder if they use this as like the showcase Scary Terry time. We saw Devontae Graham's big growth a year ago. LaMelo Ball's growth this year already. Do they showcase Scary Terry and then like this summer they're like, okay, now someone else take him because we've got 2 young guards, right? Scary Terry is currently under contract this season and next, and then is an unrestricted free agent the one after that. So it's expiring. They may like try and get him, whatever. I that's just what I would do. But I think as far as their team, it like hurts. But I don't know if like you've both said in the big picture, if it really hurts them a whole lot because they're already exceeding their expectations.
Yeah, no doubt. It's been fun to watch him. When he came in, the big knock on him, there was 2 things. It sounded like character, which has kind of turned out to seem like the character issues might have been more of him bombing interviews to kind of find his way onto a certain team, and his shooting. And he kind of the character doesn't seem to be a problem. He seems to be a great teammate, and the shooting seems to be there. And his floor vision is just stupid. I mean, his passes are just – he's, 18, 19 years old, and he's making those passes on the NBA level. So it sucks, but, how exciting is that for the 5 Hornets fans out there?
Charlotte's not that little.
Yeah, no. Sure. No, I got family in Charlotte. They don't even care about the Hornets, man. No, but so I hope he gets better soon. Regardless of anybody's feelings about the Hornets, LaMelo's he's just such a fun player to watch. So, but other than that, the other guy, I don't know if anybody has ever heard of him before, LeBron James, who is 506, finally got hurt. He got hurt a couple years ago, but it was also the first time. It didn't look like he was gonna have a team that was gonna make a push for the playoffs, and he just kind of sat out. And then all his players got traded, and then Anthony Davis ended up on the team, and then they got it. They won a championship. So I guess he was hurt a couple of years ago. But yeah, high ankle sprain. Ja had this earlier in the season. It actually happened against the Nets. I was able to watch that game. And he was out, I think it was 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all watched that Pelicans-Lakers game last night, but no AD, no LeBron.
It's looking bad.
Yeah, hot tea, cold tea. Yeah, Jamaal, we'll start with you again, man. Sounds like you're going to go towards hot tea. Do the Lakers need to be worried right now without LeBron and AD?
On a scale of 1 to 10, the Lakers panic mode needs to hit 10.5 right now, because you think about it, you lose your 2 best players, and you already see in a lot of these teams in the West really starting to pick their game up. Main culprits: Utah, Phoenix, the Clippers. They're all looking at the Lakers like they're hurt, they're wounded. This is our chance to make our move right now. And now I think with the trade deadline coming up, this could be a time for some of these other teams, not just in the West, but out east, that you can make a case for as far as the buyout market, what players can become available in trade talk. This could really be a crucial time in the season for whoever's trying to catch the Lakers right now. So this is really going to be the Lakers. They got to start picking it up, even without their 2 main stars there, because the further they slip, there's a really decent chance that they could play in the play-in tournament, which is not where you want to be, because all it takes is 1 or 2 bad games and you are sitting at home.
Yeah. Marcus?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of hot tea here. First, obviously, they're only a game and a half ahead of the Nuggets at the 4 spot. And then they're only, as Jamaal alluded to, the play-in spot is 6 games behind them, which I think sounds a long way away until you realize how difficult the West is. It's also worth pointing out that 7 through 10 will play in that play, and only 4 spots out of 7. I also think that it's, these 2 injuries are weird in that, like, a high ankle sprain, you don't ever get a real timetable on, because you're just going to, like, wake up one day and it's going to feel playable. And because LeBron is not a human being, it may be way faster than the rest of us would be. Dude spends millions on his body every year. His ankles, I'm sure, are in way better shape than ours ever were. I dislocated one, so it's definitely better shape than mine. But I think that I think that the deal there is that it's such a weird injury that you honestly I've heard people say it's better to just break your leg, because then there's a set timetable, and I would argue he's got the better injury, right? Davis is the calf thing is way too similar to the Durant thing we saw in Golden State and the Achilles area, and you can't have that happen to him. You have too much invested in him as a franchise. We as fans don't want to see him rush back and get hurt like that. Like, there's lots of things going on there. And we saw last year that they can do it with just those 2, and they almost 5-pieced the whole thing with just those 2.
Yeah.
We also saw 2 years ago without either one of those 2. Ooh, man, they were bad. So, like, Kyle Kuzma ain't it. Kyle Kuzma's a great role piece. Kyle Kuzma ain't it. And so the Lakers right now are in trouble. I imagine they're a favorite to get a guy like Drummond in the buyout. I imagine they're a favorite. I'm seeing, I guess I should say, I'm not hearing because I'm not super in the know, but it looks like there's talk about Redick to the Nets. I've seen some stuff about Redick and a buyout going there. The funny thing is, we'll talk about trade guys in a second. They could use Lonzo Ball.
It's funny you mentioned that. Actually, I wanted to bring up this piece. Do you think now, with all this going on, do you think the Lakers are regretting letting go of Brandon Ingram and keeping Kyle Kuzma?
I mean, Anthony Davis, when he's healthy, you couldn't have predicted that. You couldn't have predicted that this would happen. I don't know how. I didn't really understand how realistic it was that Kuzma could have actually been swapped into that deal outside of the financial side of it. I've thought Ingram's a better player and prospect for a long time. If I'm New Orleans, I would have asked for Ingram too. I guess I wasn't in the room though, so I guess if they could have given up Kuzma, I would have rather given up Kuzma. That's what you're asking. If it was up to me, I would have rather given up Kuzma. I just don't know that's what they would have done. Anyway, hot tea on the whole, I would say the Lakers are in trouble unless LeBron does the thing where he just wakes up and his ankles are healthy. Because LeBron was fine on his own leading the team, but they need one of those guys back.
Yeah, it's if LeBron comes back, because I don't know where I heard the report. I don't know if I saw it through a tweet or if I heard it on one of the podcasts. But maybe like 2 or 3 weeks. If he comes back from that high ankle sprain in like 2 or 3 weeks, I don't care what people spend on things, but I want to know how much money he spent on his body in a matter of 2 or 3 weeks if he came back from that injury that fast. It looks bad. I watched some of that game yesterday. They don't have a presence down low. They don't really have a facilitator. Dennis Schroeder can say whatever he wants about being the point guard of the future. You can be the point guard of the future when you play with LeBron. I can be the point guard of the future when I play with LeBron. And then AD, all you have to do is kind of just get out of the way and just know the game a little bit. There's rumors about Drummond going there. They're like you said, I don't think Ball's going to end up there, but it would be nice if they had another piece right now. I think they're in trouble. And, what's it look like? Do they come back at the end of the season? Do they get in a play-in game and then win the play-in? And then, are they on the road against Utah or Phoenix in the first round?
I will. Okay, how Utah would it be to be the first seed all year long? You get the number 1 overall seed, home court throughout, so on. Your first round matchup is AD and LeBron. Poor Utah.
Yeah, no doubt. That would be so Utah, and God, it'd be a great show for my boy Donovan Mitchell. But it's he would have to have another one of those 50-piece series like he had last year. That him and Jamal Murray battle, but. Or how Chris Paul would that be if Phoenix got it? And just how Chris Paul would something like that be?
I mean,
well, to that point, though, I think, and this is my honest opinion, I think Phoenix would fare better against the Lakers than I say Utah will.
Yeah,
because they can space the floor better and point out anybody on the Lakers right now who can match up with Devin Booker right now.
Oh, I actually think that in like clutch minutes they might put LeBron on him because you're right. I think the other thing that's interesting about Phoenix is that Phoenix is way more versatile in lineups. They can go small ball with Saric. They can go big with Ayton. They can play them both and be and I think that would give them just more stuff to take in on the scouting report, which can extend a series. I don't think either team beats a healthy LA, but I do think Phoenix would give them more trouble.
The only thing that I will say that worries me about Phoenix is their inexperience as far as playoff goes. Because other than Chris Paul and Jay Crowder, they really do not have a lot of playoff experience, if any at all. So I think that'll be a factor come the last weeks of the season.
And that's a great point, Jamal. I've heard that a lot. They went to the bubble last year, and it was what was it, 7-0, 8-0, whatever it was. Yeah, undefeated. But they didn't get into the play-in game. They didn't make the playoffs. And just like you said, Jamal, it was their team hasn't experienced that heartbreak. Last year, remember that picture of Mitchell laying on the floor while Jamal Murray came over to pick him up and give him a hug. The Harden not even throwing shots. The Harden getting so close so many times. Even the Curry losing in the finals, LeBron losing in the finals. That nobody on the Suns experienced anything like that. So what happens if they get into those moments and it comes down to the clutch and you just have Chris Paul and Jay Crowder to rely on for those moments? Chris Paul's a great leader, but I think they're going to have to take one on the chin in the playoffs to really get there over the next couple of years. So and I think Chris Paul's body's built for that too. So.
I think it is, and they got some really youthful guys. As a matter of fact, a couple guys I want to highlight: Mikal Bridges out of Villanova and Cam Johnson out of North Carolina. I think those two guys, they really might determine the ceiling for Phoenix right now.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, if Johnson's right, they're right, and then I also think that, and I said a second ago, this like renaissance of Dario Saric is like did not see it coming, and it's not that he needs to play like 30 minutes a game. It's that like teams aren't ready for like the 10 to 15 minutes he's the center. It's really weird. It's like, oh yeah, the center can shoot threes all of a sudden. You got to go cover him. I don't know. It's different. It changes the game a little bit.
Yeah. So it definitely will be interesting. We make the jokes about how how Utah would it be or how Chris Paul would it be. To be honest, I really hope the Clippers just go on a run, get the 1 seed, and then just lose to the Lakers in the first round if they're an 8 seed. That would just bring a lot of joy to me. I just think that team's just overrated, and I just don't care for them.
That will shut up all noise about them being the best team in LA. All that goes away.
It just over. Yeah, congratulations! You went out and you got a 90-year-old Serge Ibaka to figure out all your problems in the playoffs. So
that would be really funny.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so that's kind of it for hot tea, cold tea, because now we're gonna kind of talk about a few more things. We talked about the injuries. Gave a little shout out to Elgin Baylor, and now we're going to talk about the trade deadline. Not only is the trade deadline just like one of the coolest things in the whole entire world, because human beings are just getting thrown around the whole entire country, and then sometimes just North America. Not this year, but also it's going to lead to buyouts. So we'll talk about trades first, but just one example is like Mark, you mentioned in the beginning, or it might have been Jamaal, sorry. One of y'all said it, is J.J. Redick might end up on Brooklyn after being bought out. Didn't think J.J. Redick would end up being bought out. I thought he would end up getting traded. I know he lives in Brooklyn. This just made my weekend a little bit busier, but that's all good. But let's start with Brooklyn's neighbors north of the border, and that would be Toronto, which in this case are south these days down in Tampa. Tampa's on a roll this year. They got the Lightning winning the Cup, the Rays pulling their pitcher when it mattered in the World Series, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just going out there and doing business. Now they're about to lose. I guess you can arguably say he's the greatest player in their franchise history, as far maybe not greatest, but most meaningful, I guess. Kyle Lowry, Parker, we'll start with you this time. I know you were working that trade machine earlier. So tell me what you think about Kyle Lowry and where you think he'll go or who you think needs him.
Yeah, they're the two things I'm seeing on, I'll just say credible sources, because there's a bunch of different people between the Ringers and the ESPNs and the Athletics and the whatever, are saying Miami or Philly if it happens. I think it's worth pointing out that you talk about like the greatest Raptor, like as far as like Toronto culture and the things I'll say want to say they are, because I don't, anyway, the thing they want to say they are, he's like that guy, right? So there is, I guess, a chance that they say, no, just sentimental value. We can't do it. The issue in trading him is he's getting paid $30 million, and he's getting paid $30 million, and he's not the same guy he was even 2 or 3 years ago when they won it all. And that's not to say he's bad. He's still a very good, like he's as good a locker room guy as you can get. Defensive point guard that doesn't need to score a lot, but can if you need him to. Like, back both ways there. I like his fit in Philadelphia. I like the fit next to Ben Simmons. I like the back and forth because he can catch and shoot off of Ben Simmons. You could run an alternate lineup with the Ben Simmons as a post type guy, like a point forward or a point center, and have Lowry on the floor at the same time. And in the non-Ben Simmons minutes, you got this great. You can rotate him in a way that you got a great point guard on the floor leading the team. He also has, championship experience. Like the most painful moment for Philly in the last couple of years was at the hands of a team that Kyle Lowry was on, right? The Kawhi shot. The deal is with that $30 million, and we were talking pre-pod a little bit about the trade machine. I was wondering, how do you get to $30 million? It looks like they're going to need to trade Danny Green, Scott, and Seth Curry. Now, I do think there's positional overlap there. So, like, rotationally, they may not miss Seth Curry as much. But, man, schematically, I think they will. They don't have a lot of those middling contracts. They have the maxes. They have a lot of lows. and they don't want to trade a max. They don't have enough lows to add up to it. So the middle three that add up to about $30 million put together would be those three guys. And unless you could find some third team to step in and put picks in to keep you from having to lose Seth Curry, I get why they would do it. It's different. They were playing fairly well when Seth Curry was out with COVID, but man, since he came back, he's been great for them. But I will say that if they could find some way to keep Seth, I do think Philly's my favorite fit for Lowry.
Ball.
Yeah, I've always agreed that Philly would be the best choice for Lowry. But another team that was mentioned for his services would be Miami, and I understand that Miami has been not just Lowry, but a couple other pieces too. LaMarcus Aldridge was another guy they were talking about as well. So right now, it's as far as best fit, yes, I think it is Philly. But how they're going to make it work and not have to trade Seth Curry is going to be almost impossible to think of. But knowing Daryl Morey and knowing the moves that he's made just in this year alone, I would not put it past him to get something done within the next 5-6 hours or however long it goes until the actual deadline. So Kyle Lowry is definitely a name to keep an eye on for the deadline.
Yeah, no doubt. Jamaal, you said something there that I'm glad you did, because I'm going to turn it back over to you, Parker. You mentioned Daryl Morey, and I know his time in Houston. I think if it was between his family or being able to make trades, he probably would have went with making trades. So outside of that Russell Westbrook trade, which is it's highly talked about now, and you can go find just about anyone who has any inside knowledge, podcast or whatever. He didn't want to do the Westbrook trade, but outside of that, he always built on the fly. He never really would let his team go down, and he always stayed competitive. And we talked about that last episode I was on, because he fought when he could have just blew it up against those great Warrior teams. Parker, what do you think? Do you think Daryl Morey is going to pull the trigger here? He didn't on Harden. Is he going to do it this time?
Well, and first of all, I think that the fascinating thing about Morey is he's never directly leaked it, but there's like all kinds of different rumors as to who was forcing him to do the Westbrook trade.
Yeah.
As a Houston guy, I loved having Morey because I knew that the goal was always to get a new star, whether it was T-Mac and Yao, then it was Harden, then it was Dwight, then it was Crit. Like someone was coming to town, right? His big thing is he wants stars, and he's going to figure the rest of it out later. And so I could see him thinking Seth Curry is worth giving up for a Kyle Lowry if he thinks Kyle Lowry is a star, right? I imagine he's got a move in the back pocket. I was trying to look up, if I'm being honest, like kind of Morey type guys, like, not anymore because he's a little bit older. Like a Trevor Ariza a few years back would have been a Morey type guy, right? A 3-and-D, underpaid. I had trouble finding one off the top of my head from a team that would be willing to give those guys up. But I imagine Morey's busy because he knows that he's got two superstars at 25 years old, and they've got a chance right now. Like that right now is the chance. Like you make the move now, even if it means you're bad in 3 or 4 years, because 3 or 4 years from now, you don't know what's going to happen to Ben and to Joel. They've already had the crazy injuries and stuff, right? So I imagine they do something, whether a buyout of a buyout of a LaMarcus, a buyout of a Drummond or whatever, right? Not that those are rumors I've seen, just they'll hit something to make a move here because he doesn't stand pat when he's got a chance. That's not really his MO. And I think they've got a chance.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned buyout guys. Redick's rumored to Brooklyn, but he could go back to Philly. I know he's still tight with some of those guys. He played for Doc in LA, and he'd be a veteran presence. And maybe that's just what they need, just a veteran presence. And then Jamaal, you mentioned Miami too. I heard an interesting thing earlier. I was listening to I was also listening to one of the Ringer podcasts. Parker and I were talking about that before we got on. And they said, they were trying to figure out how to get Lowry to Miami, because it sounds like that Riley doesn't want to give up Hero. That's fine. Say what you want. I don't think that Lowry is going to make Miami a championship team. I just, bias aside, I think Brooklyn and Philly and maybe the Bucks, depending on what's going to happen the next few weeks with the Bucks. I want to see a little bit more with this PJ Tucker lineup. But they did mention, what about Norman Powell? What would that cost? So I thought that was interesting. Jamal, we'll turn it back to you. Do you think he could end up in Miami maybe if Lowry can't?
That's probably one of the more intriguing pieces that we have at the deadline, Norman Powell. He's been having I think his career best season for Toronto's. Now, him to Miami, I don't know if that'll swing the favor for them. I honestly would not know. But I will say that Norman Powell on the right contending team could really help push them over to where they need to go, because you're talking about a guy who's about 6'4", 6'5", can stretch the floor with a three, very underrated driver to the basket, and he will get after defensively. So those are the type of guys that are at a premium. And if you can fetch the right price for him, I go get him, because he could be the difference between you either being a ho-hum team, probably maybe get to the semifinals, or he could be that missing link for your bench to possibly make a finals run. So if I'm Brooklyn, Philly, the Lakers, or the Clippers, or any of these top teams out here, I'd take a real serious hard look at Norman Powell right now.
Yeah, I'm looking up his numbers now. It looks like he's 50% from the field, 44 from three, and he's averaging 20. Jesus, am I seeing those numbers right?
19.5 points per game.
Yeah. Well, go for it.
If I'm not mistaken, I think this is his contract year as well. So think of this as an audition for him.
For what it's worth, they would have to probably sweeten it, because I don't know why Toronto would want this outside of like pick capital or something. But Trevor Ariza for Norman Powell straight up works on the money side of things. They'd have to throw something in. I don't know why why Toronto would take on Trevor Ariza. It'd also be like Trevor Ariza's like 8th home in 6 weeks or something like that. But
it'd have to be Precious, wouldn't it?
They'd probably throw in Precious getting paid next to nothing as a rookie, so something like that.
Yeah, he's got upside too. I think that'd be a good throw in. Well, that was the whole Lowry thing, I guess. It'll be interesting to see where he goes. I'd kind of like to see him in Philly. I'd like to beat him. That'd be cool. But at the same time, I'm a big story guy. I like the whole story on it. I think it'd be cool if he went to Philly, went to Nova from there. Just has that grit, has that grind. It'd be cool to see him lose in the Eastern Conference Finals to the Nets. But next guy up, he requested a trade earlier this week. What is it? It's Wednesday. Earlier this week, over the weekend. Aaron Gordon just doesn't want to be in Orlando anymore. So two things I found interesting about this. One, not so much interesting, but I thought the list of teams that seemed to fit him, not interesting, but intriguing. And the second thing I found interesting was the fact that he's been in the league since the 70s, and he's only 25 years old. 7 years, 25 years old. So let's see. Jamal, we'll start off with you this time. The three teams that are kind of getting rumored right now are Nuggets, Blazers, and Celtics. Where do you think he goes, or do you think he goes to any of those teams?
This is a tough call, because as you said, there are three teams that are looking at him. I've heard around here in the Denver area that there are a lot of fans here who want him to come to Denver, because what he does, it's almost like a stretch four that'll give Jokic another weapon as far as front line help, because really our front line options besides Joker it's limited at best, because you have MPJ who can play the four, but are you really going to ask and depend on him come playoff time? Remains to be seen. We know Millsap is very long in the tooth right now, and I just don't know what to really expect from Will Barton. Great Will Barton. Denver is a very competitive team, and really one that can really put a lot of pressure on the Western teams. But bad Will Barton, as I'm seeing tonight, is not pretty at all. So. Denver, no, it's the God honest truth. I've watched enough Denver Nuggets games to know. So I think Aaron Gordon would really be helpful for Denver. Now, whether the front office wants to give up one or two prospects or another draft pick for that, and we don't know if Aaron Gordon wants to resign here, because as I'm also hearing, he wants to look at really branding his name throughout the large markets. And as we know, Denver, as far as basketball wise, is not really that big of a market. Now, say if he wants to go to Boston, he'll definitely have a bigger market for him. But if you're the Celtics, who are you giving up for him? Is Jaylen Brown's name being thrown in there? Is it a couple picks? Because we know how shrewd sometimes that Danny Ainge can be. And then you have Portland, one of the smallest markets in the NBA right now. But Aaron Gordon, I think, would at least consider it because you're thinking about having a chance to play with Dame Lillard. But on the flip side, for Portland's point of view, who goes to Orlando? You shop CJ McCollum? Do you shop and it's not Cantor, but Nurkic? So those are definitely pros and cons for each team that they'll all have to weigh.
Parker?
Yeah, so my two favorite fits for him are Denver and Boston, amongst teams that are rumored to get him, right? I think the deal is he's a big three, a stretch four, a small ball five, right? Like he does a lot of different things and offers a lot of versatility. He obviously is the high flyer, dunk contest guy, yada, yada. He also this year is shooting something stupid, 39% from three. Like that may be a once in a blue moon thing, but worth checking out. His contract's up at the end of 22. And so it's potentially, if you don't like where he is, it doesn't have to be for very long. On the Boston thing and the money side of things, it looks like it'll have to be a trade that includes Marcus Smart or Kemba Walker. I'd imagine Orlando would ask for Smart because they have Fultz, they have the Cole Anthony kid. Like they don't need the point guard at that dollar amount. And I talked about this with you, Luke, off pod. My thing there is then you're losing the kind of thing you're bringing Gordon in for, that versatility where he covers 3 or 4 different positions is also something Marcus Smart brings to the table. And the switching that you'd have if you could figure out someone to keep a lineup with Smart, Tatum, Brown, and Gordon is tremendous. Like that lineup in itself, all 4 guys can guard all 5 guys, right? Like that is a big time lineup. However, if you are just swapping one out for the other, then it's still just 3 guys. They need a big, and so I guess it's a little bit different. But my favorite thing there on his stuff is he can get to Denver for the contract matches up with just having Barton and Bol. Now, with Barton and Bol matching up for the contracts going back, they'd probably just sweeten it because it's not quite the same caliber of player. But man, I would enjoy that. I think the same flexibility he brings to Boston next to Jokic is tremendous, right? Like point Jokic, you've got him down there playing the small ball 5 with a 7-foot center, right? Then you go the other way, you still got 2 bigs on defense. You could have 2 twin towers down low if they wanted to beat him up like that. You hadn't even talked about if Jamal Murray gets hot. Like there's lots of options with him in Denver, right? My fear there would be if I'm a Denver guy, and Jamal, you are a Denver guy, but my fear there is that you pull the trade, you have a successful run, but you lose to LeBron, and then the next year you lose to Kawhi or what? Like you don't win it all in either of the 2 years, right? What's stopping him from leaving? And then where are you? You know, and I don't know how much this big market, small market thing goes. I saw Russell Westbrook sell a lot of shoes and win an MVP in Oklahoma City. Like I don't know how valuable that is, but when a guy apparently explicitly wants it, it's hard to look over. I would like to see him in Denver because I think that trade makes them a lot better. And I think we can all we talked on a previous podcast. If Denver were winning more games, Jokic is the MVP. Like that, that's
Agreed.
a wrap. If they have a top 3 seed, it's a wrap, right? And so I want to see that happen for him. But I don't know if it's worth a gamble. Like
it's gonna be up to the Denver front office to decide what they want to do because as we spoke about this, I want to say a month ago. Denver, to me, right now, they need to decide: do they want to be a real contending team to get to the finals through the rugged West, or are they just going to be content and just say, "We're just going to throw them out, see how good we are. If we make a deal good, if not, then so be it." So the Denver front office has a lot of decisions to make, not just this year, But coming next year, I think they'll really have to sit down and really think about this because if I'm not mistaken, MPJ is actually considered for an extension next year. And with the way he's been playing the last month and a half, Denver's really going to have some tough decisions on their hands.
Yeah. I think my biggest thing with it is Boston seems like they're missing a piece, and I honestly just don't think that piece that they're missing is out. Like to fix them is out there. They want. You hear Boston fans talk. They want Harrison Barnes so bad. I just don't think you're getting Harrison Barnes. I just don't think it's going to happen. And I don't think Aaron Gordon. He seems like he's supposed to fit there, but I just don't think it would happen. Especially if you got to give up Smart, and Smart's always in these trade talks. I'm watching them right now. They're down by 11 with 8 minutes left against the Bucks, and Chris Middleton just broke off Jaylen Brown at center court. This Boston team, I just don't think is going to do anything. I think there's 3 teams in the East, and I think that is Brooklyn, Philly, and Milwaukee. And I don't know what Boston needs to do. I mean, they've been to 3 Eastern Conference Finals in the past 4 years. Maybe they just need to restock and figure it out in the offseason. I just don't think you should give up a guy like Marcus Smart, who might take some bad shots at bad times, but is also going to be there diving for loose balls, chasing down, someone in transition. I just don't think you give up a guy like that unless they can steal him away. I just think you stay put. Now Denver intrigues me for a few different reasons. One, it's how they can get him. That obviously I'm sure there might be some picks, or you might have to sweeten up that Bobo and Barton deal with RJ. But the biggest thing about that I don't feel like anybody's talking about is you don't have to give up Porter or Murray,
which is key.
Yeah, because that's what isn't that what has been the whole issue? It's like can we get Bill? Can we get whoever? Yeah, but it's going to cost you Porter. Yeah, it's going to cost you Murray. It's going to cost you one of them. This way you can keep them both. So what's your 5 at that point? You got Jokic, Murray, Porter, Gordon, and then who's going to be the other
guy? Probably insert 2 guard.
Yeah.
I can't say it's more Monte Morris because we ended up giving him a 3-year deal this previous offseason. So I don't think that would be the case.
Did you were giving up RJ? So would you stick with Gary Harris? Honestly,
anyway. I would probably give them Harris because to me my thing with Harris, like he's always been a pretty good ball player for Denver, but I think with these injuries piling up, his shooting woes have decreased the last 3 years he's been with us. At some point, like you have to decide, is he worth the contract that he has right now?
Yeah. And that's I just think Gordon fits so much better there because what you're giving up, what you're not giving up, and more than anything, it's keeping that 3 core together and then adding someone to it. So there's no excuses then, right? It's like at that point, it's like, if we had Porter, if we had Murray, it's like, no, all you did was add Gordon.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
plus Paul Millsap's not getting any younger.
Exactly. I can't believe.
Well, and you bring up Millsap, the piece I see him more replacing, if we're being real, is Jeremy Grant. Like a year ago, when they went small, Jeremy Grant was like invaluable to them, and he made himself a
fits,
and
he gave Kawhi Leonard fits,
and he earned a bunch of money doing it. And the truth is, Gordon comes in and does that to me. But anyway, I don't know if I take the gamble on the guy that could leave me in 18 months. I don't know. Maybe those guys are worth it though. I don't know.
If the Nuggets can convince him to stay, you talk about the Lakers and Clippers in the top of the West. Denver's going to be there to stay if they can convince Gordon to stay.
And that's another thing. Even if you can't convince him to stay, you didn't get rid of your core 3. You just brought in a guy. Yeah, it might just be for 18 months, but you got a year and a half to run it. LeBron and AD are hurt right now. It looks like the Lakers might slip. They don't really believe in the Clippers. We made jokes about Chris Paul and Utah's like playoff history earlier. So I mean that would be the couple teams they were going at ahead of them. I just, I think if they wanted to win the West and they brought in Gordon, I think it's high, or I think the risk is low and the reward's high. I just, I can live with watching Bobo and R.J. Hampton and Barton play for the Magic, if it means I got Gordon for 18 months to try to run it whenever LeBron and AD are both out in a Western Conference with two teams who just haven't been dealing with that much pressure lately. So, and then the Blazers, it'd be cool to see him next to Dame and McCollum. I think it'd be even more cool if they played him at the 4, Melo comes in at the 3, and then Melo just takes like at least at the minimum 43 shots a game because he's never going to get double teamed. Just shooting a solid 20%. But no, I thought about that the other day. Well, anything else y'all want to add on Gordon? That's kind of the big name. That could break while we're talking, honestly.
There's a couple that could break while we're talking, but he's a fun one because he is just 25. He's got a long time left.
Yeah.
Yeah. If Denver really wants to contend this year, I think they need to swing that deal.
Yeah, no doubt. So and I don't know how this guy always gets brought up every time I'm on a podcast. But I think he should start sending me royalties because I'm not going to send them to him because he keeps on turning them down. And that is the one and only Victor Overrated Oladipo, who for some reason thinks he is a max contract player. And when I graduate, I'm going to write a book on him. But Oladipo might get traded. I heard a rumor about the Timberwolves the other day. God, I hope that happens.
It's like basketball purgatory.
Yeah. Well,
to be fair, he's currently in Houston, and we are getting beat for the 21st time in the last 22 games. So
I bet you the Timberwolves are still behind the Rockets right now.
It ain't by much. What was it? I pulled it up. Yeah. Anyway, it's we've won 12 games. They've won 10.
Well, think about it for a minute. Houston's had more success over the past decade, maybe 15 years. What has Minnesota done since they traded Kevin Garnett? Nothing.
They didn't do a whole lot when they had
Jimmy Butler.
They didn't do a whole lot when they had Kevin Garnett. That's the secret sauce.
I know. Only 2 playoff victories in their history, both in the same season.
Yeah. Kevin Garnett, man.
Yeah, now Kevin Garnett's trying to beat the hell out of the owner if he ever sees him out on the streets because he won't give him part of the team or whatever's going on there. Yeah, so Victor Oladipo, I'm not frustrated. I just don't get like what people love so much about this guy. You keep on hearing Miami. It's like he wants to force his way to Miami. It's like I just don't see what he's really going to do to just put them over maybe that's what my issue is. I think he fits in a lot of places, but I don't think he's a max player, and I don't think he puts a team over the top. I just don't think he keeps a team from dropping. But I don't think adding Victor Oladipo is going to put a team into the championship. But anyway, Parker, I'm going to turn this one over to you because I'm just going to ramble about 15 minutes about how he's overrated. So I'm just going to let you talk.
That's funny. My take on Victor Oladipo is this. If he's your first best player, you're the Magic from a few years back, right? If he's your second best player, you're like that Thunder team post Durant, pre Paul George. If he's your third best player, though, you might be kind of nice, right? So as I look at the place, first of all, he wants to be in a big city, and I think that's because he's been stuck in Orlando and Oklahoma and Indiana, and now in a bad Houston. Although, like, Houston's the 4th biggest city in the country, but it's it's not the. I love Houston, but it's not like it's not a big market right now. It was fun when we were winning, but I think the deal there is he's looking at the New Yorks, the Miamis, the LAs from a lifestyle perspective, man. He's got a house and he's got somewhere to live. Might be an apartment or a condo, but he's got somewhere in Miami. He trains on the beach. New York City never sleeps, bright lights, Madison Square Garden, those kind of things. I do think that if you could pull him into those teams where he's alongside Butler and Bam, where he's alongside RJ and Julius, or whoever you want to call the two in New York, like I think if he's your third best player, you're all right. I've been impressed by his ability to score when the games don't matter. I think the truth is in Houston, he gets a lot of empty points. He will be down by 20. He'll go rip off 11 in a row, and it's like, cool, we're down 9 now. Like there's no like it's like that didn't help us. Where was that at the start of this deal, right? And so I do think he gets moved because as he's an expiring contract, and they're frankly Houston included, there are teams that think of that as valuable because it opens up free agency moves in the summer and whatever. If Miami was not going to package Hero and Robinson to go get James Harden, I don't know why they would package Hero and Robinson to go get Victor Oladipo or anyone else we're talking about, frankly. But that, I think, is the way the money works there. New York's got a bunch of weird pieces. I don't think they're going to just ship off Derrick Rose or anything. But I do think he has value as a third best player on a contending team. I just don't know how it happens money perspective. I think my trade machine move was Ariza and Avery Bradley, and Miami would probably have to throw something sweet in there because that works out from a money perspective. But like, why would Houston want those guys?
Could you do Morse or Kennard? Send them to the Clippers.
Clippers for Kennard and Terrence Mann. I think that was the money work there. Again, LA would fit his criteria. It looks like I would do a 3-way trade. And that was my big trade deadline move, or my big trade machine move, where Houston would get John Collins, Trevor Ariza, and Mitchell Robinson. And Ron Robinson. And then Miami would get Oladipo, and then Atlanta would get Prince from Miami and some picks probably, because I don't know why else they'd want to ship off John Collins in this trade. But that was my big 3-way trade to get some of the stuff moving, and the money all worked. Now, my thought there is we'll get to Collins in a second, I'm sure. I really like John Collins. And maybe it's because I'd rather have him. But that does get him to one of his destinations and does kind of seem to help teams balance things out. But I don't know how it works out. I do think he gets moved. I just think we're all going to be scratching our heads as to how it happened.
Mo?
I mean, this is one of the more head-scratching players that in recent memory, at least for me, because I liked Oladipo coming out of Indiana. I thought that this guy, you know what, he's got game, and I think he really does have what it takes to really go on to the next level. Then, of course, as we already mentioned, been in OKC with Westbrook, been to Orlando, where really there wasn't much there to begin with, and then to Indiana, where we all thought that maybe this was the spot for him, even if it is a small market, but it just did not work out that way. Then he gets traded to Houston, and then, as you said, all the empty points, just like you're not really impressing me. So I will say that him in Miami would be interesting. How he and Jimmy Butler will coexist. It would give Miami another scorer or another guy who can create off the dribble. So you're not just putting it all on Jimmy Butler or Goran Dragic, for that matter. But I honestly do not see Miami giving up either Hero or Duncan Robinson. I just cannot see that, because they're two promising players that they really are. They're really fond of. I just don't see Pat Riley doing that. I could see him in New York if the Knicks really wanted to become real big players in the trade deadline. I could see that. Pair him with RJ and Julius Randle. That would be a really interesting threesome there to really give New York, I think, more of a puncher's chance in a playoff mix. But I would not be surprised if Oladipo, when it's all said and done, if he ends up in Miami. That's where I think he'll be.
Yeah, and it definitely sounds like that's a place he wants to be too. So, sorry, audio's a little messed up there, guys. So, and as far as New York goes, if this is going to be the version of Randall we see, and Barrett keeps doing what he's done the past 6 or 7 games, Yeah, I mean, he could be a third guy there. And as a Louisville fan and a Nets fan, I promise you there is nothing more I want than for Victor Oladipo, who is the most overrated player in NBA history, to go play for a team full of Kentucky players as the other team in New York. There's nothing more I want than that.
The money trade that works in New York would be Frank Nilinka, Alec Burks, and Nerlens Noel, which Houston doesn't get better, but they at least get rid of Vic. I don't know how it works, man. I don't know.
Ntilikina, man. Yeah, no, he was like a top 10 pick for them, 4 years ago, something like that.
What happened? Yeah.
Yeah, he played for the Knicks for a long time, and then he got buried.
Played for the Knicks.
They got good. Yeah. But Parker, you mentioned another guy a little bit ago whenever you were talking. That's John Collins. Turned down a pretty big contract in the offseason. It's going to hit restricted free agency, and he wants the max. And fun fact is he's not going to be worthy of the max whenever he's playing with a guy like Trae Young. Or if he is, it's you're putting a lot of money in two guys who haven't proved anything. So, Parker, where are you at with John Collins right now?
I like him. We talked at one point in our previous podcast about Atlanta, really more in general, and I like his versatility as a 4 and a stretch 5, small ball 5. I think I was actually on with Jamaal that time, but we're talking about the redundancy that he offers with Clint Capella, because in your smaller lineups, you either want the roller that is Capella or the pop guy that is Collins, but together it can kind of crowd up your lane. I don't know. I think as I look at him, I like him a lot. I worry he's going to think he's more valuable than he is, but I don't know. I like his game a lot, and I would think he's worth it. I think they're looking at it like Capella's getting paid a lot. Trae Young about to ask for a lot. They got other young dudes that are going to ask for a lot. And the truth is, they're probably, even with John Collins, a big time player away anyway.
Yeah.
And so they're going to have some money for that. And I think that it's just easy to cut ties with John Collins right now, or easier to cut ties with John Collins right now. As far as his game goes, I mentioned the 3-way deal I tried to work out on the trade machine earlier for the money to get him to Houston. I would love having him paired with Christian Wood. Both can pop, both can roll, so you don't have the clogging aspect that you get with Capella. They obviously, when one's out, the other's in. It adds some size to Houston, which they desperately need. And then I don't know how much Houston Rockets basketball y'all have watched. We hadn't won a lot of games. If you have not watched this Kevin Porter Jr. kid, I need to see him grow with kids his age. I love John Wall, but I need to get Kevin Porter Jr. some reps and some minutes he can play. And John Collins kind of fits that mold too. So I would like him in Houston. I heard on, I believe it was the Ringer, Steve Jones, who's a great follow on Twitter. It's at Twitter. It's at Steve Jones 20. He was talking about him on Dallas, kind of doing the same thing with Porzingis and Luka. Yeah, I think he's valuable. I would want him. I just, it's, do you have the money to really do it or not?
No. Jamal?
Yeah, so John Collins is another intriguing piece that I think that on the right team, this guy can really do some damage. I know one team that really was really harping on trying to get him was Boston. Pair him up with Kemba Walker, let them run that pick and roll, because I think what that also does, it'll take the pressure off of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, so they don't feel like they have to score 30 or 40 points every night or whatnot. So John Collins, I think, will he command max money? Debatable. Don't get me wrong, a very good player who can do a lot of things and very versatile, but I don't know, maybe a foolish team would give him that max money. I think the right team with the right fit and scheme, I'm telling you, look out for John Collins. This man can ball.
Yeah, and no doubt, I think Collins is a great player. I just got this. I don't have a problem with people, trying to get their money, especially while they can, and if someone's going to give it to them. I just have this issue with people thinking they're worth it when they, haven't put somebody on their back yet. when they're not even the best player on a team who's not even a playoff team. So I think that's my issue with him. But as far as him playing, if he gets in the right fit, yeah, no, I think he'll be great. And I spoke on the Hawks last time we were on, and I said that they were going to start losing a lot. And I might have been wrong about that, but I'm gonna.
We all are.
Hey, I'm here right now to stand by that they're still the Hawks, and they'll find a way to screw something up.
Yeah, and they're going to trade John Collins. That's going to be out.
Well, to caveat on that, I think we do have to give some credit to Nate McMillan for at least for turning that team around, and I still maintain that Indiana did that man wrong.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. So, there's one more big name out there floating around in trade talks, and that is Lonzo Ball. There was rumors last week of the Clippers. There's rumors of the Bulls. I guess if you want to consider Lauri Markkanen another big name out there, but he's kind of in talks. If you talk Bulls with Lonzo, but fun fact: the Pelicans, while they're not winning all the time, it seems like him and Zion are kind of meshing well. Now we're kind of at the point to where Ingram just signed that big contract. Zion's going to be doing 2 years, something like that. Are you going to pay Lonzo with his track record? Jamaal, we'll start with you. And if you're not going to pay Lonzo, where's the best fit for him?
Man, there are a couple places for Lonzo because of his makeup and his IQ. There are a lot of places where he can fit at. If I'm New Orleans, I have to think really careful because you already paid Ingram all that money. Zion's going to be due relatively soon. And I think if you're the Pelicans, I think you move him. And there are a lot of places where he could really fit in well. There's been talk about the Knicks, the Bulls. Heck, there's even a rumor here in Denver that he might be traded here. I don't think it's a good idea, but I digress. But I think no matter where Lonzo goes, I think he will be a solid fit because he's got pretty good length for a defender. He's a better defender than people think. His three-point shooting has increased dramatically. I cannot even believe how well he's shooting it from the three right now. And we already know about his passing skills. So it's not like the guy's a bum. So once again, it's a classic case of if he's on the right team, the right fit, and the right scheme, he'll be just fine. It's just a matter of where. So, but honestly, one team I think who really does need to make a push for him should be the Clippers because it will actually give them an actual ball handler and not a Patrick Beverly who thinks he's got game like that. I don't think so. So I think if you're the Clippers, I think you need to make that move.
Parker?
So when I was looking for a team, when I was looking for a team that needed Lonzo Ball, I was looking for a team that had maybe another playmaker, kind of younger guy. I was looking for a team that maybe had an all-star level player that was kind of similar in age. And I found this team in New Orleans. Now, there hadn't been a team in New Orleans very long, but New Orleans needs to keep Lonzo Ball. Like I don't understand what they're going to try and turn him into, as far as like flipping him. Is going to be another guy that's about 6'5" to 6'7", shoots threes and plays defense because you got Ingram that creates. You got Zion's been great for them in stretches. Lonzo Ball is 6'6", shoots 38.5% from three, and plays great defense. He also runs the break. He's a restricted free agent this summer, so they just would have to match any other max offer he were to get offered. I don't know that he's going to get as much as he's being rumored to. I have pulled up. Some people think he could get as much as $18 million, but if no one were to offer him, they'd be paying him $12. So I think it's worth it. I don't know that you're going to get better stuff back for Lonzo, and he's in your age bracket. I would say the bigger move for them is not dumping Lonzo. It's Steven Adams was a bad signing. It's getting JJ Redick is an old man amongst a bunch of 20-year-olds, right? I would say that the other the money issue is from other aspects of the roster. I'd try and keep him, man. He's playing so well. If you're gonna sunk cost get rid of him, I agree with Jamaal. My look was the Clippers. We know he would give LA a pay cut of sorts. That was always the deal when he was drafted by the Lakers. That they want to be in LA, they want to be in LA, they want to be LA. He would be a great fit next to Kawhi and Paul George. I wrote a piece a couple weeks back about how they need a point guard. I was looking at Scary Terry or John Wall, frankly. But they need a point guard that can create and catch and shoot. Because right now, when their late game action is running a Paul George screen for Kawhi Leonard, that's not getting them a whole lot. And so
it's a train wreck.
Yeah, the deal will be that like if you got one guy that can defend Kawhi Leonard and one guy that can defend Paul George, they're just gonna switch. It's the same size defender, whereas having a third guy means you probably don't have three of them, but B, if that third guy's a point guard, your point guard size defender isn't going to be able to cover Kawhi on the block or isn't going to be able to stick with whatever, right? And so I think as I look at it, I guess if they had to move him, I'd say LA. I like some other teams too, but the Clippers make the most sense. The Clippers also got bounced a little early last year and, kind of need something to get him over the hump. And so I could see them making a move here. But man, if I'm New Orleans, I don't move him. That's my hot take on this thing is I don't move him at all.
I mean, because it's a big youth movement in New Orleans, and like you said, get rid of Steven Adams, let JJ be bought out. You got a real young nucleus. I mean, they remind me of Memphis right now. You see Memphis as a young building team trying to make their way in the West right now. So
right.
Look out in these next few years for those two teams, New Orleans and Memphis.
Like they got 4 dudes on their team born since Y2K. Stop. Trade Adams. Get him. Man.
Yeah. If you're gonna do anything, go back to that 2-month layoff between the bubble and the start of the season, and how about not give up Drew Holiday? That's another thing they could do. But I guess they got a whole bunch of picks back for it. So it is that Steven Adams thing, and it's not because I've heard other people say it was a stupid idea. It just never really made sense. And someone finally said it. I don't know if it was on air or on a pod the other day. He was kind of one of the last surviving old school big men still making it in today's NBA. And it just seems like New Orleans is just really showing that he's just not one of those guys. I don't know how he got away with it in OKC. Maybe just a little bit of age caught up to him, but he's not even that old. He might be 30. He's right around there.
Steven Adams is in his upper 20s. He showed up at 18. To be fair, he just doesn't fit with them. It's not that he's bad. He just doesn't fit with them.
I just don't know where he would fit. Who would pick up Adams? And that's that's a discussion we don't really have to have. It's kind of rhetorical. I just don't know where Steven Adams really does fit anywhere right now. And taking minutes away from Jackson Hayes, which it takes Texas guys a couple years. We've seen that with Hayes and Turner and Jared Allen most recently. And
they've always had bigs, man. And they had Mo Bamba. They currently got they've always had bigs, man.
Yeah, so it's just I tend to agree with Parker here. I wouldn't mind seeing him get traded, but I really just don't care. I don't know why you break it up unless it's to get Lewis more minutes. I think Bledsoe probably needs to go. You just got 3 guys on that team that are over 28 years old, and everyone else is 17. So I don't know what the point of having them on the team is, especially when they're not winning a bunch of games right now. I mean, they beat the crap out of the Lakers yesterday, but they're also 2 men down, and those 2 men just happen to be Anthony Davis and LeBron James.
Right.
But yeah,
2 men in air quotes because they might not be human.
Yeah, no doubt. But yeah, is there anybody else you all want to hit on or talk about as far as players or teams that might need to make a move?
I feel like we've exhausted Drummond on this podcast before. It does look like he'll be bought out and sent somewhere because nothing's stirring as far as trademark is up. We mentioned JJ Redick. Looks like Brooklyn. I'd be happy about that if I were you, right? Have y'all heard anything about LaMarcus? What do y'all see on LaMarcus Aldridge?
Miami is looking at him real hard.
Yeah, apparently there was a report that he met with Pat Riley the year that he went to San Antonio, and even though they couldn't get him, they still sat down and talked. And apparently, I don't know if they've maintained a relationship since then, but apparently that's kind of going over to now.
One I've always heard the Pat Riley move is he like just takes out the championship rings from his playing, coaching, and now managing days and just puts them on the table, which is
I would
play.
too.
Power play.
I would too.
Do you think that makes them a lot better? I heard Miami too, and I was like, man, like I don't see it.
Yeah,
well, he'd be a good piece off the bench, honestly.
Yeah, if he took a bench role, I guess that's like a bench guy. But
yeah, I mean, just a little bit of depth, and it goes. And it's really, I'm not trying to sound like cocky or biased when I say it. I just really don't think anybody's gonna overmatch the Nets, Bucks, or Sixers right now. And I love Jimmy Butler. I think I never am gonna doubt him. I just, the bubble was a weird circumstance last year. There's no asterisk next to it by any means. That game, what was it, 3 or 4? Whenever he played like 47 minutes and like 30 seconds, that game was just incredible. But if you're telling me LaMarcus Aldridge is going to be the difference maker to the Miami Heat in 2021, I'm just gonna ignore the rest of the conversation.
I got another name to keep an eye on. DeMar DeRozan, also from San Antonio. There's been talk that the Knicks are looking at him, Chicago as well. So DeMar DeRozan is another name to look at. DeMar
DeRozan is a perfect New York Knick. Yeah, and I'll leave it at
that. He is. I love how the Knicks are just like really pushing for that like 5 seed. It's like, we're not going to get home court, but we're almost maybe going to do it.
We might win a playoff game. Like that. We're going all in on maybe winning a playoff game.
What as bad as they've been almost the past decade, they need something. And plus,
probably don't.
And Brooklyn's already stealing most of their thunder anyway. You need to keep up somehow.
That's right.
I need to knock on wood because that could very well be Houston in 20 years. But that's just what it feels like is happening. Is like they're pushing really hard to like maybe win a game or two in the first round.
Yeah. I can't wait until fans are allowed back in at like full capacity and the Knicks come in as like a 6 seed and they're just blowing up MSG so much more than Barclays blowing up. And it's just back to this whole little brother thing. So it's going to be whatever. I'll always remember the day KD and Kyrie signed with us instead. So take your small wins. Just a little salty about it. We hit on Norman Powell. Lauri Markkanen's another name I keep hearing get thrown around a little bit. I just don't really know where he'd go. It seems like it's just going to be kind of a more test the waters in the offseason move with him. But you mentioned JJ earlier, and we kind of hit on him at the top. Yeah, I think he'd be a good piece. I feel like the Nets are just kind of – it's weird watching them right now. It's like Blake Griffin's, playing like 15 minutes a game, getting like 4 points, playing some pretty good D, and then kind of telling Nick Claxton where to go on the court. And then, you obviously got the big 3, and now like Bruce Brown's playing center, and we got Jeff Green on another vet minimum. I feel like they're just going to start bringing in all these guys who used to be good, and everyone's going to get excited. And really, it's just like it's 38-year-old JJ Redick and half of one knee Blake Griffin and.
Well, as a matter of fact, that brings me to one last name. What do the Nets do with Spencer Dinwiddie?
When's he back? Is he back mid-season, or is it going to be a whole nother year?
There's a possible chance he may come back this year, depending on how his rehab goes.
Yeah. So apparently he can come back in the playoffs. The trouble with Dinwiddie is his contract's up, and he's, I think, going to be unrestricted. Whether restricted or unrestricted, either way, he's going to get paid, and they can still trade him. So I don't know how all that math breaks down or what the rules behind it are, but he can still be traded. And I've heard Dallas as a team, and that could maybe bring over, I think it's Richardson.
Josh Richardson,
yeah, bring over Richardson and give them Dinwiddie. Then Dinwiddie can re-up. and then he could be there with Luka and Porzingis moving forward. And I think that's not a bad fit for either team, really. But yeah, if he can come back for the playoffs, he worries me a little bit when he tries to play hero ball a little too much. And I mean, he was doing that too much, before all those big guys came in, and then he was doing it in the beginning of the season, and then he got hurt, and now Harden's there. So
there's too many redundancies.
yeah.
It's tough because before he got hurt, I'd be like, yeah, I'd take him on my team in a heartbeat. Especially if he could be your 2 or your 3, like you said, being the third guy in Dallas would be great.
Yeah.
But it's also one of these injuries where, I kind of want to see him play.
Yeah.
And it's like you're saying, I just looked up, he is an unrestricted free agent at the end of 22.
I was at 22.
So they could push till next year, but if you're Brooklyn, you're also risking and waiting till next year that he shows up and isn't right yet. And if he's not right, then your asset, I want to talk about people like assets, but your asset gets hurt if he shows up and isn't right. So I don't know what I do there. I will say that pre-injury Spencer Dinwiddie, I had one on my team. And frankly, what's he getting paid here? Spencer Dinwiddie, $11 million. What could you flip? You don't want any of these guys. I'm looking at Miami. What would he do opposite Jimmy on the perimeter in Miami? But in Brooklyn, they don't want Kelly Olynyk.
He's an expiring, if they can throw in a protected pick or something like that, who knows what Sean Marks would be willing to do.
Well, and I will say that there's no redundant player in Kelly Olynyk on Brooklyn, right? There's not an awkward dude with a bad beard, but there's also not there's not a somewhat not good defender because he's kind of immobile, but he is a capable, he'll come in for 12 minutes and not be awful on offense. He's probably kind of pushing the end of the career soon. His next contract, it was a couple years, might be the last one. But the Kelly Olynyk thing I think is interesting if Brooklyn wanted the expiring because their money is almost exactly the same.
Oh.
And if Miami really thought they could do something with Spencer, but I don't
know. One more, not so much player, but kind of team I just want to hit on. The Thunder still got 2 guys in Horford and George Hill. They just going to kind of hang out, or they're going to make a move, or it seems weird that they're not trying to. Did y'all see that Diallo trade a couple weeks ago when they traded for a no-name player in a second-round pick?
27. They're legit. They're trading as far. Not Houston, the same thing to get Harden, but every move it feels like they make is just for picks, and it's at some point you got to draft someone, man. Yeah, I like the culture they've got there. They always find good players. Shea is nice, but I don't know what they're gonna do. I would imagine Horford's ill fit the same way Steven Adams was ill fit, but I don't know. I
keep telling people that Doc Rivers did not want to give up SGA in that Paul George trade. He did not want to give him up. And you see why, because that kid's got game. But if I'm OKC, well, no, backtrack. If I'm George Hill, yeah, I probably would ask for a trade. There's been talk about the Clippers or any other major contender who needs a point guard, but he's been linked to the Clippers.
That would be interesting. That would be interesting. Yeah. You mentioned point guards. I think it's worth pointing at. So since we've been recording, the Toronto or Tampa Bay of Toronto, whatever, their game ended, and there is a lot of stuff on social media of Nick Nurse says Kyle Lowry plays harder than anyone ever seen. There's no higher compliment I can give than that. And Kyle Lowry is waving to the camera on his way off the floor. It looks like something could happen in the next 12 hours. Kyle Lowry, it's like he's retiring, and I don't know what that is. So we'll see if something happens in the next few hours.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. Oh no, that was 3 hours ago. I saw Oladipo's name. I was like, here we go. Yeah, here we go. I was really hoping something was going to break live, but either way, guys, this was really fun. Do y'all want to finish up with what is it, shot clock?
I'm game.
If you got it, you want me to get it?
Either one's fine. I got mine here. If you got yours ready, it's
no, you got it. You go for it.
All right. Who wants to start?
I got one. I got one.
All right. Give you a countdown. So 3, 2, 1.
March Madness is awful. It's not that like the college kids, we're not picking any real winners. I don't feel like the best team is the team that wins it all at the end. I don't have any faith that Oral Roberts is actually better than Ohio State because they won one game on a random Saturday. I would like to know who is the best team every year, and March Madness doesn't help me at all. And it's not just because my Longhorns lost.
No, I think that might be the main reason why.
Yeah, I was going to say, are you sure it's not because the Longhorns lost?
Because I had to stop and think about it for a minute. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I think that might be the exact reason why.
Mm-hmm. I mean, but I can't talk because UNC already got knocked out by Wisconsin. So,
hey, I'm a Louisville fan, so whatever. Basketball, right? I will say, because I never got to mention this before, I do have kind of a soft spot for Texas. When I was a little kid, it wasn't even basketball. I always wanted to stay up and watch the national championship game with my brother and my dad. And the first one that he ever let me stay up and watch with him was the Rose Bowl between USC and Texas. So that's still the greatest game I've ever seen, my favorite game I've ever seen, the most memorable, most cherished. So I will always have a soft spot for Texas and Vince Young.
I hadn't lived in Austin in a while, but the last time I flew out to Austin Airport a few years back, that was still playing on loop at a TV in one of the airport bars. I'm not joking. It's been like 4 or 5 years, but it was still on the TV.
That's awesome. All right, Jamaal, you got yours, man?
Yeah, I got one.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1.
So speaking of March Madness, Oral Roberts became only the second 15 seed to ever make the Sweet 16. Now, whether they get past their next opponent remains to be seen, but it's definitely one of the more cooler stories in college basketball. But also, look out for the dark horse in Michigan. Juwan Howard is doing his thing. Do not be surprised if they cut down the nets in Lucas Oil Stadium.
Jamaal, I gotta tell you, man, your timing is just I love it when you do these.
I keep doing, y'all. I practiced that before I come on the show. I practiced that.
This is wild. All right. So I'm just gonna have to fire off the top here. All right, 3. I'll keep it to the hip so it's not thrown up in front. Y'all trust me?
Yeah, I'm not gonna count, but I'll trust you.
I was gonna say it's wild if you all trust me. I could definitely set this to 40 right now. We don't know each other that well. All right, 3, 2, 1. All right, it's gonna be a short rant. It's not gonna be a lot. Mentioned it earlier. I still don't believe in the Hawks. I still think they suck. I don't care how many games they win. I don't care if they're the 5 seed right now because everyone in the Eastern Conference who is in the next Nets, Bucks, or Sixers are all 500. And they're just going to keep losing because Trae Young isn't Luka Doncic, and they had Luka Doncic at one point. And time.
Okay.
And they had Luka Doncic at one point. Oh man.
Yeah, it was the greatest 5 seconds in their history. They said his name.
Even now, I'm still trying to rationalize why they made that deal in the first place. But who am I? I'm not their GM.
Yeah, Mark Cuban's got to know where the skeletons are buried, right? It's the only thing I can think of. It's the only thing I can think of. But guys, this was fun. Like I said, I wish something would have broke while we were live, but at the same time, this was definitely a good time.
Good time.
Definitely.
So, no doubt. And for everyone who checked us out, we appreciate you. And feel free to go back and watch the past 6 episodes. Follow us on Twitter at Midweek Midrange, Instagram Midweek Midrange. And then, guys, where can y'all be found out?
You can find me on social media. I'm at Ainsworth512. That's at PAINSWORTH 512. All one word on Twitter and Instagram. And then we all write for Belly Up. You can check our stuff out at bellyup.com or bellyupsports.com, I should say. And then I got another show on Mondays that we got to drop an episode every Monday called F in Sports, wherever you get audio podcasts. So I'm around. Jamaal, where can they find you at, bud?
So I'm also on Twitter as well. You can find me at Jamaal Simmons. Pretty easy to find. Still trying to get my footing as far as social media goes, but come check it out.
Or right on. I am on Twitter at LAGram2. It's LAGRAHAM2. Snapchat LAGram, and then Instagram Gram6141. Also I feel like I'm probably going to be getting busy with the Nets here soon. As the playoffs come to an end, right now they're down 16 to the Jazz, so that's awesome. But yeah, what's up?
That's a fun thing. This is the first playoffs in a long time. I'm a playoff free agent. I will have free reign come.
Hey, we can collab a little bit on what's Harden like in the playoffs. So.
Oh, okay.
And real quick, before we go, I haven't done this before. I hope it's okay with y'all. One of my best friends in the whole world and his wife just welcomed little baby Naomi Jordan into the world this week. So shout out Brandon and Jordan. I love you all. Been buddies for a long time, known her my whole life. So congratulations. You all have a beautiful baby daughter.
Congrats,
folks.
All right, guys. Until next week, thanks for pulling up. Bye.
Yeah, let's do it again.
Yeah.